You know me, I've always had the propensity for telling long-winded stories. I've always been good at that kind of storytelling. Some people uh, will be like, that's why you're good at lying. I'm terrible at lying. Always have been. Uh, what I wanted to do, if you watch the Island story, it's about how emotionally stunted people ruin everything. When I was in high school, that story was revised into a much more complex story uh, called The Bikini Atoll. And in the story of The Bikini Atoll, essentially it's the same thing. A plane crashes. There's this weird guy. I guess he's essentially me. He has a bad back, and he ends up, because it's a Bobby story, ends up with a fat chick and a dinghy. And there's these other people that end up in a life raft, floating to shore. And when they get to shore, the weird guy, we're just gonna call it the guy that's kind of like me, the weird guy. The weird guy just immediately, while they're floating to shore, just starts collecting all the baggage and everything that floats up from the plane. Anything he can grab. He grabs one of those catering carts that the stewardess pushes. Anything. He just scavenged and scavenged. When they get to the beach shore, there's a bunch of garbage there, and this dude ends up basically building a shack out of garbage. Now, when the other people, they arrive at the beach at the same time, this dude goes over and basically lays down a guideline, a list of things that needs to be met. Like, they need to get water, they need to procure food, and everybody just laughs it off, says it's a joke. Like, this situation is gonna blow over. There's nothing bad about what's going on. So this guy resides to his own part of the island, and there's a little girl. She has strep throat, and she doesn't have her meds. So this dude, the weird guy, goes to his side of the island. He builds a still, starts distilling water, collecting coconuts, and the fat chick just kind of follows him because she ended up on his dinghy, and they're kind of there just through like catharsis. This guy seems to know what he's doing. Another dude on the other side of the island, we'll call him Jack, elects himself leader. And everything's about control with Jack. He doesn't really care about survival or anything else. It's just all control and getting what he can get. Only cares about himself, but wants to be in control. This guy immediately, using charisma, and kind of talks like a wrestler from the 80s. Like the brother, oh brother, like the Hulk Hogan type. Gets, using his charisma, gets people to basically do what he wants, and they kind of come together, but those people, they don't know how to build anything. They don't know how to create. So they start getting pissed at the weird guy because he's good at building and creating and making it, even though the weird guy's in constant pain because he has bad back problems. And the fat chick steps on his back to straighten out his back. It's kind of like there's a Greek story about this dude that had scoliosis and they dropped a rock on him and it straightened his back, but he died. Think of it like that. The weird guy's kind of funny. He's constantly making jokes, and even though it's in like a dire situation and everything's serious, he kind of takes everything like a joke. While they're on this island, he talks to the fat chick, and the fat chick's like, well, there's no reason to, overbuild or do anything, take this seriously. They'll send somebody out for us. And then the weird guy looks up, and he was like, nobody goes into the Bikini Atoll. And then she's like, why is that? And it's where they did nuclear testing. We're not getting out of here. So the other people on the other island believe basically they're going to go home, and they're religious fundamentalists mostly, and the ones that aren't become religious fundamentalists because they're in a fucked up situation and they're dumb and desperate. So all those guys start spreading their bullshit on that side of the island. Jack at one point finds a pink backpack that washes up that belongs to the little girl that has strep throat. But Jack now has strep throat. At one point he's being a dick and he grabs the little girl's drink and drinks out of it and gets strep throat. But now there are no doctors on this island. So Jack does the emotionally stunted selfish thing and steals the girl's meds for himself and cures himself. Meanwhile, the rest of his people on the island start getting sick. This is all well, the weird guy is exploring the island. He finds like a military base. He grabs like leftover military supplies, anything. This guy doesn't think of things as a thing, but rather in individual parts and units. It's an engineerical mindset. He's engineerical. So basically, he ends up finding a cargo bag, some luggage that has a gun in it. He gets abducted one night. They beat the shit out of him and drag him out of his house. He has a fishing string tied to the gun. He pulls the gun over, shoots that guy in the head, and everybody on the island is horrified that the weird guy now has a gun. But they won't admit assaulting him and beating him and dragging him out of his house because they want him to fix their problems, but they do not want him in control. They want him to fix the problems, but they do not want him in control. That is the biggest issue with the weird guy, is he's weird, so nobody wants him in control. So after shooting that guy in the head, Jack comes over and is like, hey, you murdered somebody, you need to be held to account, you like talking about accountability, we need to put you in, and he's like, no, it was self-defense, and he's like, well, you gotta come to our court, and he's like, come to your court where everybody has strep throat and is infected, and he's like, I'm not going anywhere, and Jack starts getting mad because he's not getting his way. So the people start coming over, and they're terrified now that that weird guy has a gun. And this is the whole thing. He has a monopoly of force now. And everybody's terrified of him because Jack keeps pushing fear. It's the only way he knows how to control is to push fear. He's super charismatic, he's super positive, but all he does is push fear. It is his only skill, is to push fear. So the weird guy, with his stockpiles of shit and stuff, the people and the little girl starts getting really sick, and eventually the streptococcal stuff starts bursting out of her skin, opening up, creating open sores all over her body, and she's in like the late stage of like a streptococcal infection. And she stumbles off into an area that glows during the night, and it has these giant rocks in it, and the giant rocks are glowing. And when she's there, she starts feeling better. So she associates the rocks with holiness, and then tells other people that are suffering from extreme streptococcal bacterial infection that there are these rocks that can heal them on the other side of the island. The people begin migrating there. They begin joining the little girl's cult, and they put the little girl in charge, because as we know, a 2-year-old needs to be in charge. And she creates her own cult. So Jack gets pissed because he's losing control, and people are going over to these rocks because it makes them feel good, where Jack keeps pushing a life of misery, while this girl promises them a life of not so much suffering under the strep throat. People get mad, start accusing Jack of hiding medicines because he's not sick. Him and the weird guy and the fat chick are the only people who aren't sick on the island at this point. Jack argues with them, tells them that he's not sick because he's one of God's chosen, and the other people don't believe hard enough. And it's all a lie. It's him lying. Okay? It's him making excuses. The people that go to these glowing rocks basically kind of arrange them in like a Stonehenge kind of style, and they just start living over there, and then eventually their teeth and hair start falling out, and their jaws rot away, and their bodies start mutating, and the little girl starts telling them this is a transformation. You're all being transformed into divine beings, because her brain is actually destroyed with an infection. Bob goes up on the cliffside with the fat chick, and the fat chick's like, well, she's not fat anymore. There's a whole point early on where Bob gives the fat chick a bunch of female clothing that doesn't fit her, and she's like, these don't fit me, and he's like, they will in a couple months. Trust me, you're not gonna stay fat on this island. And she's like, oh, you think I'm fat because I overeat? And he's like, yep. And she's like, well, I don't overeat. I have a thyroid disorder. And he's like, you're not going to be fat for the next, you're not going to be that fat in 3 or 4 months. And she has this whole denial thing, but then she ends up losing weight because she's stuck on an island and there's no fucking food. Okay, everybody's trying to survive. And Jack has been kneecapping the entire time. So they go up on the cliff. Bob looks out over the cliff. sees the worshippers out there in the glowing fields with the rocks, bodies dying, decaying, and the girl's like, oh, like when you get close to those rocks, you feel good. And Bob the weird guy sits down and replies, yes, that is the first sign of radiation, is you feel good. The second sign is a plasma taste in your mouth. The third sign are burns. And then she was like, oh, well, those sores you said came from the strep throat. You didn't. I was like, they can't tell the difference. But these people have elected an emotionally stunted leader, the little girl, and are emotionally stunted themselves. The only thing they know, they're in pain, and these rocks cause the pain to go away a little bit. But not all the way, but enough. Okay, so emotionally stunted people always go by how they feel. That is the lesson in this, as Bob explains, because he's Mr. Explanation. So these people are kind of getting better, but not really. But the people who are miserable are pissed that those people are getting better. And Jack is getting pissed because his people are getting mad at him, so he needs a distraction. So he blames the little girl, telling him that all the problems is the little girl's fault for creating another cult on the island, that everybody should have just been a part of his disgusting Christian cult. So those guys rage and go running into a full-blown battle with the little girl's radiation cult, and they kill one another on this island. We're gonna say like there's probably 150 people on this island. Their numbers are halved by the end of this fight, and it ends with Jack beating to death the little girl in front of everyone, blaming her for infecting everybody with strep throat, blaming her for creating the divide, blaming her for everything, and they cut the little girl into pieces and eat her. To teach the cultists that left from the way of God a lesson. And once things kind of stabilize under Jack, because he created a war to create a distraction from his failures as a leader, because he is a failure as a leader. He just can't admit it. That is his entire thing. He begins eyeing the weird guy. The weird guy is in a strategically kind of tactical location where he has a high mountain range behind. And the people start getting pissed at Jack again. They're miserable. There's STDs going around. There's no doctors to help anybody. There's no medicine in sight. And Bob, we'll just call him Bob. Bob, the weird guy, and his what was a fat girl, but now is a skinny, like saggy woman, have just been living their life away from them, and they are not infected. And these people, because they're spiteful, they're miserable and stupid, want to make sure everybody is infected, including Jack. But Jack does not want to be infected. Jack convinces them, basically through speeches, that everything is now the weird guy's fault. So they get crazy, and then one of the people who's been talking to the saggy, skinny, former fat girl, basically tells her, we're gonna come and invade and kill Bob. We are. We're tired of his shit. He's over there drinking clean water. At the beginning of this, he told us that we gotta be careful of infection because there's no antibiotics on the island. He told us we had to be careful of what we eat. And people got dysentery and died. He told us, he warned us. He kept telling us to do the right thing, and we just didn't listen. And now we feel like shit, and everything's his fault. It's all his fault because X, Y, victim. And she's like, I'll let him know. And then she tells Bob, basically, they're coming to kill you. And Bob's like, yeah. And then she's like, they're gonna murder us. And he's like, yeah. Bob was growing peppers. I forgot to mention that. There's a point where he takes up his own agriculture shit, and he's kind of just farming plants that grow on the island. He starts grinding down peppers. It's important for this part of the story. So she's like, they're gonna kill you. And he has like one of those old ass orange windsocks that's blowing above his little shitty shack made out of garbage. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, they're gonna be coming. And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, you don't have enough bullets in the gun to kill everyone, and he's like, yep. And then she's like, do you not care? And he was like, we'll have to get our military forces on it because he's funny. And she's like, what? He's like, this is the Republic of Weird Bob or whatever, and the Socialist Republic of Weird Bob. And he's like, we'll have to speak to the military commander, and he puts on a military hat that he got out of somebody else's bag, and he's like, what do we do? And he's, well, we have the strategical locations, we have a vast array of weapons, and all types of assault charges. Everything we have has to be put into the war effort. Everything we know must be put into the war effort. Get the smartest guy in the room on the war effort. And then Bob sits down, and he's like, I'm the smartest guy in the room. And like, dear God, we're gonna die. And then he stands up, he's like, yeah, don't be doubting him, he's really smart. No, don't you doubt him. And the wife's like, the fat lady's watches just, Jesus fucking Christ, this fucking eccentric weirdo. Oh no, we're gonna have to team up. Yes sir, and he's talking to himself the entire time, but putting on different hats and pretending to be different branches of the government. We're gonna have to do away with the judiciary. We're gonna have to let the prisoners out of their prisons and let them go to war. And the fat chick's, we don't have prisoners. We don't have prisoners. And he's, holy shit, we don't have prisoners. We're gonna have to put together every ration we have. We're gonna have to, and she's like, can you not take anything seriously? She just snaps on, they're coming to fucking kill you. And he's like, yeah. So the following day, the losers on the island all line up. Basically outside of Bob's shack, and Jack, standing up on a rock, yells, basically, Bob, throw down your weapons, like, surrender to us, we're taking your shit, everything's your fault, we're victims. And Bob comes out wearing an old wetsuit with a broken breather mask. He has a harpoon, and he has a whole bunch of garbage strapped to him. And they're like, we're gonna kill you. And the guy has an army of diseased idiots with open sores all over their body. And Bob yells, careful, the wind is on my side. And they go, what? The wind goddess, I prayed to her, and she's on my side. And Jack's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I'm tired of you! You think you're smarter! You think you're better! You think you know better than me! I'm in control! And he's like freaking out and shit because he's all neurotic and weird because they're trapped on a fucking island and everybody's a dumbass. They're on an island of dumbasses. So the people launch their invasion. Bob runs up a mountain path and grabs the bag of dried powdered peppers and throws them into the air, and it creates a red cloud of capsaicin that just washes over all these people getting into their infected wounds, and they all just start screaming, just eyes burning, salt, like fucking salt in the wound, kind of covered in peppers, and fucking they're all screaming and begging. And Bob walks down the mountain with a rusty harpoon that he found in the ocean and starts gouging people's throats open, one after the other. The last 30 people that are alive on the island all meet their fate, blind, dumb, desperate, screaming for their lives as Bob tears their throats out one by one, screaming military jargon like, what makes the green grass glow? Blood, blood, red, red blood. And as he slaughters these people absent-mindedly and cold-heartedly while making jokes and talking about how stupid these people are, he stabs a dude in the eye, shoves the spear into his brain, gets the spear stuck, and Jack comes down, the healthiest member of the group and leader of nothing, because he got all of his people killed, because he's an idiot, comes walking down the mountain, and Jack goes on a self-righteous rant about how Bob is the biggest piece of shit on the planet because he didn't do what Jack wanted him to. He didn't do any of the things. And then Bob's like, yeah, but let's be honest. You found the little girl's antibiotics. Okay. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, and that's why you're still healthy, is you took them for yourself. And there's an awkward silence, and Jack stares at Bob, and this earlier I left this part out. There's a whole point. There's a third guy in Bob's party that ends up getting sick. He ends up getting infected, and they put him in the quarantine tent, where he basically lives out his life in the quarantine tent until dead. He has to stay 10 feet away from everybody at all times until dead. He's not allowed to leave the quarantine tent. He's brought food and drink until he's dead. Okay? And that guy dies, and it's kind of tragic, but it's because they don't have medicine. This is a common sense thing. So Jack goes, "What, you wanted me to go into the quarantine tent and lay down and die?" And Bob looks around at all the death Jack has caused. Oh man, I'm running out of time. And basically they get into it. Bob shoots Jack in the leg. Ends up, they fight. He fucks Bob up, smashes Bob's head in, leaves him blind and mutilated horribly. And then Bob tells Jack about a ship, and there's a group of women that's still alive, and they get on this ship that's nuclear powered, and the nuclear powered ship kills them. They steal the ship on the other side of the island. It's been parked there forever, and it kills them. And then Bob gets rescued by a helicopter because they see the nuclear ship out in the ocean, and that's how they figure out that there's somebody in the Bikini Atoll.